me start by introducing IntelCapital to the team out here. We are the corporate strategic investing arm of Intel Corporation. We have about 4 billion under management. We only operate in the technology vertical. We have global presence. We have invested in 52 countries, people on the ground in 26 countries. And in general, if you look at most of our investments, they are strategically geared towards enabling and expanding Intel's business worldwide. Specifically coming down to Southeast Asia, we have been operational since late 90s. We have invested more than 95 million in the region. And if you look at some of our investments, the primary motivation for us in Southeast Asia, the entire region has about 600 million population, but then the broadband coverage in the region is only 100 to 150 million connections. So what we see out there is a lot more upside. So in the next 3 to 5 years, we want to double or triple the broadband penetration in the region. And most of our investments, if you take a look at one of the slides where we show some of our portfolio companies, we have Packet One in Malaysia. They are a WiMAX service provider that we funded a couple of years ago. They are doing extremely well. They now have about half a million broadband connections just in Malaysia. So coming to today's news, we have a couple more investments that we are announcing today. The first one is Rebonds. They are an e-commerce player, and they sell fashion goods at discount prices. And their target market is entire Asia Pacific. So if you look at some of comparables in other markets, the easiest and the best way to explain is probably if you are familiar with Guild in the US, e-commerce player that actually sells discounted branded goods. So Rebonds offers that, and they already are selling in Taiwan, Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam. They're headquartered in Singapore, and they also have plans to expand to China as well. And the second company that we are announcing today is VCC, Vietnam Communications Corp. And VCC is, it's all about local content. So naturally, in Vietnam, we need to get local, basically get closer to their cultural requirements, their local language requirements. So what VCC does, it's a portfolio of internet businesses. So VCC today runs the PayPal of Vietnam, the Facebook of Vietnam. They have a Vietnamese social network. They also have the Amazon of Vietnam. They do a lot of e-commerce stuff in Vietnam. And they have multiple other online businesses. And as you can see, if you look at both these companies, both Rebonds and Vietnam, the intention out there is to bring more and more people online. And strategically, that would only be possible, and it would enhance the local technology market, and it would definitely contribute to GDP growth only if you have more and more PC penetration and broadband penetration. So with that, I'm announcing $17 million US dollars invested in both the companies. And for today, we are not announcing the individual amounts in each of these companies. So if there are any additional questions, I can answer.
So far, do you have any investment in Thailand?
Um, Unfortunately not, but we constantly are looking for interesting opportunities. Um, my team, based out of Singapore, is responsible for investments in Thailand as well. And we are seeking interesting opportunities in the technology space. Tremendous opportunity in the region. Um, the typical areas in emerging markets that IntelCapital focuses are education, consumer internet, data centers, cloud computing, and of course we have announced a lot of initiatives very recently. We have a $300 million Ultrabook fund that we announced in last August, and primarily that's to enable interesting features for next generation laptops, which we branded and call it the Ultrabook. We also announced a 100 million app up fund. This is again a global fund, and there are a lot of interesting app developers in Thailand. So the interest out there for the fund is to develop next generation apps for smartphones, tablets, and Intel also has a joint development program with Samsung to develop an open source OS for mobile, which is called Tizen, Tizen. So the App Fund will also support cross OS, OS agnostic apps and also apps for Tizen. And last but not least, we announced a $100 million connected car fund. This is also a global fund. It's looking at bringing more and more technology into the cars. We already have design wins elsewhere, basically with Nissan in Japan and Hyundai in Korea. And we are looking at many more opportunities and any technologies that would actually bring seamless communication in, and basically enable in-vehicle infotainment would be of interest. And if the opportunity is from Thailand, we can work it. Now, all the funds have been announced very recently, so we don't have any update on how much of that funds are actually deployed. But if you look at our global portfolio, we have about 50%, approximately 50% invested in the US and 50% worldwide outside the US. Very rough split. And in terms of strategic linkage, so typically the way it works is for mature markets, say US, Western Europe, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, we always find very interesting product innovation. So we find features and technologies that could basically enable Intel's next generation products. So for example, if you look at Ultrabook, you want to take that out so that I can flash it. So, so that's the conventional laptop, right? You see how thick it is? So this is, it's only 3 pounds. And it's going down, right? It's going down. Now when you have a notebook this thin, you can imagine that it needs very thin batteries. It needs. We are also enabling touch on Ultrabook. So there's a lot of these product features which we are trying to identify interesting technologies globally, right? Coming to emerging markets, because the PC penetration rates and broadband penetration rates are very low, what we want to do is, our ulterior motive is to evangelize technology. So for example, consider Rebonds or VCC. The reason we invested in them is to enable that if you have a PC at home, you can also do, this luxury shopping at your own leisure, sitting at home. It's one more application, one more incentive to own the PC. Now we also have a lot of education stuff. We are trying to take education online, whether it's the teaching or testing or any of the various aspects of getting educated. And we are trying to make that as another feature if you have a PC you have at home, right? So because of that, what you will actually see is in the long run, it will seed the market. It will develop the market further for Intel's products. Stage agnostic investor, which basically means we look at early stage, mid stage, late stage, and even pre-IPO, as well as PIPEs, which is basically investments in public entities. Um, we also tend not to exceed 20% ownership in any company. So we never take any majority ownership. We are always a minority owner. And with respect to any target investment dollars for this region, we are a very opportunistic investor. So at the end of the day, if we do find strategic merits in assessing a specific opportunity and we find it financially attractive, we go ahead with the investment. We don't set any specific targets for any region.